Welcome to the final night of the celebration of the 100th anniversary of Hibbing High School. Tonight we finalize things by honoring our current and past faculty members. My name is Derek Gabarty and I'm honored to be your MC this evening. I am married to Jerry-Ann Gabarty, class of 1995 and current Hibbing teacher. And we have two children, Gracie, class of 2020, and Sam, class of 2024. I'm a member of the Hibbing High School class of 94 myself, and I'm currently the principal of the Lincoln School. When Kim McLaughlin contacted me to ask if I'd be interested in being up here tonight, I was honored to be thought of in this role. As we were talking, she brought to my attention how much of an influence my family has had on the Hibbing schools. I always knew it came from a large family of educators, however, when we started talking, I never realized how large it really was. First and foremost, I was drawn to this profession early on. I always liked working with kids, either as a mentor or a coach, and I knew that I wanted to be a teacher one day. I had a major influence in my father, Joe Gabarty, who was a teacher spending 33 years of his life early on in Des Moines, Iowa, and a large portion in the Nashua-Keewatin School District. Seeing how many people would come to him all the time in the past, or current students, and say hi or talk about how much of a difference he made in their lives only sealed the deal for me. His influence was so great that my brother also went into teaching and he took over in Nashua for him and is currently teaching there at this time. I owe a lot to him and my family for all their support. It wouldn't be here where I am today without them. As I begin to think about the Hibbing District, my wife Jerry-Ann and I started talking about the family that had a direct impact here. She also comes from a large family of dedicated educators, both in and out of the classroom, and I've had a major influence on her decision to become a teacher and drive to come back to Hibbing as well. When we started talking about it, and a few of them are here tonight, I'm going to just go over a few of them that were part of this Hibbing District. Jerry's aunt Carolyn Anderkin taught 20 years in Hibbing schools from 1954 to 1974. Her mother, Lois Anderkin, who's up here on stage, she was 18 years school board member from 1987 to 2005. Our sister-in-law, Sarah Anderkin, taught 32 years in the Hibbing schools from 1990 to 2022. Sarah's mother, Audrey Hendrickson, is up here as well. She taught for 31 years in the Hibbing School District from 1956 to 1993. Sarah's daughter, Elizabeth Perry, is currently teaching. She started in 2021 and has been with us for the past 3 years. My wife, Jerry-Ann Gabarty, is up on stage. She began teaching in 1999, spending the past 25 years, and is still currently in the district as well. A couple of people that weren't able to make it tonight, but we're also part of our family that's in the Hibbing District. We have Alex Sepala. He's a current teacher at the Hibbing High School starting in 2022 and has been teaching here for the past 2 years. And we just currently hired his brother Nicholas Sepala. He'll be hired as a new member at the Lincoln School starting this fall. My sister-in-law, Sarah Gabarty, is currently sitting on the school board. She began that in 2022 and has been there for the past 2 years. And myself, I was hired in 2018 in the Hibbing School District and was really happy and proud to come back to the school district and have been here now for the past 6 years. And finally, my daughter Gracie Gabarty, she just finished teaching, finished her schooling, did some subbing for us this spring, is going into education as well. So I'd like to take this opportunity to honor the dedication that they have given to the Hibbing District, introduce you to all of them. The family up here here and not here tonight have spent a total of, if you add all of us up, 139 years dedication to Hibbing School. All right, before we begin our program tonight, I'd also like to take a moment to thank our incredible organizers for putting together such a fantastic event this week. Their hard work and dedication made this all possible. Let's give them a round of applause. Now, without further ado, let's get the night started. We have some amazing speakers and performances lined up for you. From memories in history to performances and honors, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Our first speaker tonight is from the class of 1966. He actively participated in choir, band, orchestra, and theater. He received the National School Choir Award and was selected to sing in the All-State Choir. Following graduation, he entered Hibbing Junior College with a vocal music major and additionally participated in the theater program. In his sophomore year, he transferred to Bemidji State College with a major in vocal music and a minor in instrumental music. He sang numerous lead roles in the operas and participated in nearly every vocal and instrumental ensemble. After attending the Bachelor of Science degree in 1970, he continued at BSU, entering the Masters of Science vocal music program. Throughout the 3 years of study, he was a graduate assistant teaching voice and establishing a program in electric music. With the completion of his MS degree, he applied to the University of Indiana Bloomington campus and began doctoral studies. His life changed dramatically when he was made aware of the position of choral director was open at the Hibbing High School. He returned to his alma mater to fill that position, which he held for 2 years, before leaving teaching to enter the trade he has been in for almost 50 years, and that is serving this area as a piano technician. This career choice gave him the opportunity to study voice once again, sing solo parts for the Blues Symphony, start a local opera company, and direct church and community choirs. He has been performing on the high school stage here for nearly 70 years, having first performed as a child in dance recitals. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Roy Bur.
I was not informed that they were going to bring out the grown-up podium. Give me a minute. I've never felt like this. I am pleased to have the privilege to have this chat with you. What I will attempt to share with you is collected memories from performing on this stage for almost 70 years. I can't be certain that there is not someone who has performed longer than that, but I think I can say for certain that there is no one with a more diverse resume. In those years, I have been guided and influenced by many individuals. These individuals recognized something in me and encouraged me in so many ways. I have attempted in putting this presentation together to not spend too much time on any single discipline and to bring up high points. Speaking of high points, anyone who has done a great deal of performing will remember the good, bad, and the ugly. I guess mainly the ugly. Many of you might be able to identify with different parts of this abbreviated story. So we begin. In June of 1956, an 8-year-old stepped out onto the Hibbing High School stage to perform as part of Vera Vedder's Dance Review of 1956 with brother Bill and sister Helen. One of these selections was actually called the Berg Trio. We were obviously out in the community performing because I found a clipping from a newspaper dated October 10th, 1957. I quote the article, "Marvelous is the talent that the little fry offer to Hibbing folk." Observed a group from Vera Vedder Dancing School entertain members of the White Shrine, and what a show these little performers put on. Roy Berg, as MC, was a rapid-fire director who was a dancer, singer, and comedian, all wrapped up in one package. I note that my older brother Bill was also in the program. I bring this up only because this may be the only time that I have ever received top billing. Bill was not mentioned. I received training in both tap and ballet, and I can still do a very mean dance step. I continued my dance study through my high school years. One of the things I recall is that I had a female dance partner with whom I performed what is known as pas de deux, or literally dance duet. We enjoyed quite a few years dancing together. I do remember how careful I had to be where I took hold of her for the lifts and catches. Now, not for the reasons you might think, but I remember her being very ticklish. Another fond memory was the wonderful costumes that Monty McDougall made. All of the costumes were made individually for each one of us. Monty somehow could talk with a mouthful of common pins while she was fitting a costume. An amazing talent. One of the last memories involved a Russian dance number that I did. I had to do those very athletic dance steps that involve squatting down and alternating between your hands and one foot while you swing one foot in a circle. The other feat was arms folded in a squatting position and kicking out one leg at a time. A very impressive move. The costume was very Russian, with baggy legs and cuffs at my ankles. As I kicked one leg out and then the next, my foot got caught in the other pant leg. At that point, I had nothing under me but the floor, so I dropped down onto my Russian bottom. I come from a very musical family, so that is the next discipline I entered. I began instrumental lessons at Ellis School, going up to the 4th floor for my trumpet lesson with Clyde Hill. Mr. Hill was a part of my life from then on. The earliest program that I found in my scrapbook was called Spring Festival, presented by the intermediate grades of Greenhaven School in April of 1958, in observance of the Minnesota Centennial. My mother wrote in the program that I played first trumpet. One other earlier example I came across was the Jefferson's Day program, April of 1960, with the Jefferson Band, directed by Dick Stoike. I continued in the instrumental music program and band under Jim Baldriga and orchestra under the direction of Richard Baer. One unforgettable incident happened in the marching band. Mr. Baldriga worked us very hard to accomplish a sophisticated way to turn a corner in a parade. As we approached the corner, one line would cut across early so that in the end we were reversed. The outside row on the left turned 90 degrees and ultimately would end up on the outer right line. Sounds confusing, right? Here's what happened to me in that parade. I remember the uniforms having white shoulder cords that had a pair of cords hanging down with metal tips on the end. As I was moving through the crisscrossing lines, the metal tip swung out and caught in the tubing of the tuba going the other direction. That meant I was now being pulled backwards, trailing behind the tuba. I did ultimately free myself and got back into formation. No YouTube, thank heavens. I come from a very musical family, so that was the next discipline I entered. I continued in the instrumental program. Oh, these things turn their pages on their own. Sorry about that. One thing that always was fun for me was to enter talent contests. I placed first in several of them, and that was very rewarding. I had a major competition going on from accordion players. There were many good players studying at the time. When I did come in second, it was because of the technique that always won over the judges and the audience, and that was called the bellows shake. As soon as they pulled that maneuver, I knew I was out of the running. Also very influential in my musical development was Val Peterson, who many of you might have known, who was the general music teacher. Her love for music was infectious. She would read biographies to the class. One I recall very clearly was that of Satchmo Armstrong. I don't think that any teacher could hold the attention of a class of students doing that today. Next and foremost, Trox Hamilton, who remained a part of my musical development throughout her life. I also remember the exceptional musicians such as Catherine Hessler, and finally Mary Rowe, whom I first began my vocal study. She taught me how to take care of my voice. The next priority in my life was drama and music theater. I was so fortunate to grow up in the period when, in my estimation, the greatest musicals were written. Vern Wenberg was such a gifted director. My first experience auditioning was a disappointing one. The musical in 1961 was to be Peter Pan. I figured that I was the perfect Peter. I was on the short side for my age, or maybe any age. I had all of that ballet training for Peter's graceful flights, had a strong voice, and looked great in tights. I was immediately put into the section of those to play the children. Certainly not what I was interested in. Disappointed, I did not return for the second day of tryouts. In retrospect, I think it worked out for the best because I didn't take into consideration that I was fearful of heights. Vern developed such a great reputation because of the quality of his productions. He gave me my first break when he cast me as Chula Longhorn in The King and I in the spring of 1963. Next, he cast me as Woody, which was a romantic lead in Finian's Rainbow in the fall of '63. He had the most difficult time in getting me to embrace my love interest in a believable fashion. I'm afraid I gave the impression that I was hugging one of my aunts. I dare not quote his exact words. Not much of a ladies' man, I guess. Vern moved to the junior college and was replaced by Leslie Schimmelfennig as the next high school drama director. He did not have the Wenberg flair, but was a fine drama coach. The musical he chose was Annie, Get Your Gun in 1965. I figured that the male lead was a perfect part for me. He promised me the role, but changed his mind when the girl he settled on to play the pivotal role of Annie was tall. I was quite devastated, but moved into the role of Tommy Keeler, who was the other love interest. I applied my dance skills to choreograph the dances and teach my partner the steps. The last high school production was The Fantastics, which we performed in the summer of 1966. One more production of note was in my first year of junior college, and that was Carnival. I once again was working with Wenberg. It was a spectacular production that was performed in conjunction with the Minnesota Junior College Fine Arts Festival, which took place in Hibbing in the spring of 1967. We were given rave reviews. In all of the productions that I was a part of, I need to give credit to Joe Newman, who was the stage manager. He had a great challenge in this production, where he had to mount a telephone pole along the side of the proscenium and build a ramp out into the audience. We all learned so much from Joe, and when he retired, it is very sad that we never had another full-time union stage manager. The last chapter I will share with you came after 7 years of my college education, when I accepted the position as the choral director for Hibbing High School. I served for 2 years, with the highlight of that time being the production of Jesus Christ Superstar, directed by Al Reller and myself. It was a huge success. We had a very talented group of students that made that happen. When I left the teaching profession, I entered my current profession as a piano technician. I have been serving the wonderful Steinway that you will hear, the largest grand piano that lives on this stage for the last 44 years. I am proud to have done a restoration on this 100-year-old instrument in the year 2000. On this very stage, I have been a dancer, choreographer, singer, instrumentalist, conductor, teacher, piano technician, actor, and an all-around nuisance. It makes one kind of dizzy wearing all these hats. From the bottom of my heart, I thank this community for offering me all these opportunities and giving me the great education that instilled in me a lifelong love for the performing arts. I am more at home in this beautiful auditorium than anywhere else. I have yet one more performance on this stage, joining the 100th anniversary choir. I'll see you in another 100.
Thank you, Mr. Bur. Moving on, a couple things for myself and the influences I also had in this district. It's through all the years of going to school here, there's so many teachers that have had such an influence in my life. It's hard for me to name them all, but a few of them that, through the years that really kind of influenced me to be up here right now are the likes of like Miss Brandenburg when I was in kindergarten, to Miss Lozar, to Miss Cinco, to at the Lincoln School and close coaches with Mr. Balf and Mr. Haddam, to when I was at the high school with Mr. and Mrs. Erickson and the two Bergen brothers that influenced so many of us through the years, to science teachers like Mr. Goetz, Mr. Gibbs, Mr. Neary, and Miss Warner. All these teachers, back then, would they have said I'd be up here today? Probably not, but I really do appreciate all that they've done for me and all the influences they had in my life growing up too. So they also hold a special spot in my heart, as do all the teachers I had through the schools, to influence me to get into this field and to be up here as well. All right, next I'd like to introduce you to Miss Stephanie Carney Carlson. Miss Carlson is a 1985 graduate of Hibbing High School. Stephanie graduated from Minneapolis College of Art and Design in 1992 and also graduated from UND in 1998. Stephanie works as a freelance artist, designer, and writer and credits her love of art and writing to the time she spent at Hibbing High School with supportive and encouraging teachers. Stephanie is thrilled to be part of this celebration and is proud to be a graduate of the Hibbing High School. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephanie Carlson.
I think I need Roy's little step stool here. I feel kind of short behind it. So today, my daughter, who lives in Memphis, Tennessee now, who's a 2013 graduate of Hibbing High School, texted me and said, "Break a leg tonight." So I called her and she said, "So how's the week been going?" And I said, "It's been going really good." I said, "But I'm tired, but it's a joyful exhaustion." And she said, "Uh-oh." And I said, "What do you mean, uh-oh?" And she said, "Mom, I know your speech is going to be good, but when you get tired, you get a little weird, so don't be weird." So I'm going to try really hard not to be weird. So that was my advice today. So before I start here, I'm going to qualify too. I'm going to start with second grade, but I'm not going to do every grade. It's just so you know, I'm not going to be up here for a long time. So I just wanted to share some memories of my teachers that I've had here in Hibbing over the years and how important a lot of them have been in my life. And this is just a small snapshot of many, many teachers who have had an impact on my life. But since we're celebrating teachers tonight, I thought I would give a little praise to them, because they give us the praise most of the time. So I went to Cobb Cook Elementary School when it was still open, way back when. And in second grade, I had Miss Torgerson, and she was yes, Miss Torgerson is awesome. Please give these teachers a round of applause when I say their names. She was a new teacher at the time. I think it was like her second or third year teaching, and she had long blonde braids, and she was full of life and idealism, and it was the first classroom I'd ever been in where I learned that learning didn't need to be linear. The classroom was very unconventional. She had learning stations. We had a reading area and a science area and an art area, and we actually even built a cave in that class. So out of chicken wire and paper mache, it was the coolest thing ever. And we also had a state project, so each kid got 2 US states. I had South Dakota and Rhode Island, and she'd give us a cutout of the shape of the state, and then we had to do research on it, and then we got to collage our state. And I'm an artist, so one of my mediums is collage still to this day, and that was the very first collage I ever did, so I credit her for my love of collage. In 4th grade, I had Mr. Marinucci, and he, again, another great young teacher. He was so much fun. And one day we were out on the skating rink and we were skating, and there was a kid who kept following me around and he was teasing me relentlessly. And I was getting really tired of it. And so I stood up for myself. And Mr. Marinucci brought me back up to class and said, you know, I'm happy that you stood up for yourself, and you know, you should stand up for yourself when somebody's treating you disrespectfully, and you know, you should always remember that, but you probably shouldn't have punched him in the face. So, and I did learn my lesson because I have not punched anybody in the face since. And I won't name that kid because I don't want to. So in 7th grade, I had Mrs. Fort for a home ec. And one of the things that, yes, and one of the things that I remember from her class was how to keep the length of your fingernails. And so she said, you should just be able to see the tips of your fingernails over the tips of your fingers. I still wear my nails like that today. And I painted them blue for Hibbing, so thank you, Mrs. Ford. And also, she introduced me to crepes. I'd never had a crepe before until I was in 7th grade, and we made them in class. I loved them so much that I made them at home every day for months. And in fact, I loved them so much, my mother bought me a crepe pan for Christmas that year. And I still make crepes because they're one of my favorites. And she also had a really cool tie skirt. Does anybody remember that tie skirt she had? And those were made from her husband's ties. And if you remember Mr. Fort, which he was a math teacher here at high school, he was known for his festive ties, and they made a beautiful skirt. I always loved when she wore it. I always asked her to wear the skirt too, because I just loved that skirt. So when I was going into 9th grade, I was fairly intimidated about coming to this big school, and I was scared about, you know, coming here for the first time. And I was lucky because my dad had just started working here. He was a custodian, Bob Carney. So he's also going to be the Grand Marshal in the parade tomorrow, so go wave to my dad tomorrow. And so he brought me here ahead of time, and we got to look through all my classes, find my locker and all that stuff. And so that was really, really cool. So I didn't feel quite so intimidated on the first day of school. And the bad thing about having Dad at the school was that, especially as a custodian, because he's roaming around the school all the time, I could never skip school. And so twice friends of mine tried to convince me to skip, and both times we had to try to do, you know, some ninja stuff, because he was always at headquarters right down in the the ground floor here, where the custodian always are. So yeah, after that I gave up. I'm like, oh, forget it, he's gonna catch me. So I never did skip school. So to all my teachers, it was impressive. So in 9th grade, I had Mr. Addington. Do you remember Mr. Addington? Mr. Addington I had for civics. And he taught me that the importance of active citizenship in a democracy, and I still carry that with me today, those lessons, and I still try to be a part of everything I can be, local government all the way up to national government, as much as I can. And he would later become athletic director in my later high school years. And I was in the Jackettes. Anybody? Jackettes? And we were really sad that we couldn't earn a letter for being in Jackettes. And so Mr. Addington convinced me and a couple of other girls that we should go to the school board and lobby for our letter. And he helped me write a letter, and I was congratulated on that letter from some of the school boards. We never did end up getting the letter, but he did tell me that, you know, if you don't ask, you'll never get what you want. So always gotta try. So that was my lesson from Mr. Addington. Also in 9th grade, I took my first art class here at HHS with Mr. Wagren. He introduced me to pen and ink drawing, And he saw that I really loved the medium and that I was fairly good at it, so he took extra time with me and helped me learn how to do some techniques that not everybody in class was doing, and that is my main medium still to this day. So I'm so grateful that he saw that in me, and I think of him often because I do it all the time. It truly did change my life. In 10th grade, I had Orville Rickers for English. I was lucky enough to know Mr. Rickers through my adult life, through some other things that we had done, and he was a very kind and gentle, peaceful kind of guy, and he was a very peaceful influence in my life. He was the first person to tell me I was a good writer, and he helped me to keep at it. And when I graduated from college and I moved back to Hibbing, I had written a letter to the editor about something was going on in town that I wasn't real happy about. And so I wrote a letter to the editor, and I ran into Mr. Rickers, and he leaned over and whispered in my ear, "You're an excellent writer." And I leaned over and said, "It's because of you." And that still is one of the best compliments I've ever gotten in my whole life. So I'm thankful to Mr. Rickers for that. In 11th grade, I had the other two art teachers, Mr. Kishel and Mr. Mucci. I think Mr. Mucci's here today. Mr. Kishel taught me photography and taught me how to really see the world, and so I still carry that with me today as an artist. He also wrote me a recommendation letter when I applied to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and the letter was so well written and so glowing that the admissions people used it as an example to other prospective students. And upon my exit interview when I graduated, my advisor whipped that letter out and was like, "Oh my God, this is you." So he was kind of famous there. Mr. Mucci I had for art classes as well, and I had taken, by about 11th grade, early 12th grade, I had taken just about every art class there was to offer here. And there was nothing left. So Mr. Mucci made a class for me. He gave me an independent study class, and I worked on my own projects for an entire quarter. And when that was over, he let me be his teaching assistant, which just meant I was kind of his slave. But I got to be in the art room. So I was happy. I didn't care. And I also learned from those three incredibly talented and wonderful teachers that art didn't just have to be a hobby for me. It could actually be my profession, and it has been, so I'm very grateful to that. Junior and senior year, I had Mr. George Peterson. Remember Mr. Peterson? I had him for college prep writing and creative writing, and he was my first publisher, too. So, like Mr. Rickers, he saw that I was a fairly decent writer, and he helped me cultivate that, and I had him for creative writing in 11th grade, and we wrote some poetry, and he had brought some of our poems to the hematite staff, and when we got our hematites that year, there was my poetry in the hematite. It was the first thing I had ever gotten published. It was a big surprise, and I was so honored that he did that. He also, for my final project in that class, encouraged me to write a play, and I wrote the play. It was a one-act play. It was called Front Steps. It was about a mother and a daughter who, throughout the daughter's life, talk about, life and how things change and whatever. And I read it not many years ago, and I was like, oh boy, he was a really good teacher, because this is really bad. It was not good. He must have seen something I didn't. It was very melodramatic, but in fairness, I was 17 when I wrote it, and life is very melodramatic when you're 17. So. But I'm very grateful to Mr. Peterson for cultivating my love of writing. And then also in 12th grade, I had Mr. Hedges. Remember Mr. Hedges? I had him for current affairs, and if any of you remember, he was a very snappy dresser. He always wore really colorful suits. And he was a very smart man and an excellent teacher. And every day he would record the news portion of Good Morning America, the beginning part, and we would watch that, and then we'd learn about what was going on in the world, and then we would talk about current affairs. And so every time I watch the morning shows, I think of Mr. Hedges, and I picture him standing next to the TV with his fancy suit on, which is a great memory for me. And then I ran into him years later somewhere, and I went up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I loved your class, and you were such a great teacher. And He said, "Oh, Miss Carney, of course I remember you. How could I forget the only person in class who knew who the mayor of Hibbing was?" And to date myself at the time, it was Mario Redica, so just so you know. And we went on to have a very nice conversation. So these are just a sample of the stories and the influences the teachers here at HHS and, you know, even before have had on me. And now as a 50-some-year-old woman, I'm still taking these lessons with me every day, and I'm so appreciative of it. So I just want to leave you with a note that a 7-year-old girl wrote to her teacher. I think it kind of sums up what we all feel about our teachers, and I think everybody in this audience could probably come up here and do exactly what I just did, because we've all been so fortunate to have such great teachers here. But little Susie writes, "Dear Mrs. Olson, you are an awesome teacher. When you teach, it feels like I'm not learning anything. But once you get done teaching, I feel like I learned something. You are a better teacher than you think. Your student, Susie." From all of us on the committee, all of us alumni, I think I can speak for, thank you, teachers. Your influence never ends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Over the past 100 years, there have only been 10 principals at the Hibbing High School, and a total of 14 since this district has been formed. This shows what an honor it is to lead such an amazing staff and be part of this beautiful building and this district. Currently, that honor goes to Ms. Renee Sikora. Renee is honored to work with students, staff, and families as the Hibbing High School principal. She's been a principal in the Nashwauk, Keewatin, Bemidji, and Grand Rapids school districts before making her move to Hibbing, where her husband, Will Sikora, is the current choir director. For many years, their workplaces were 100 miles apart. They were living the dream of being in one outstanding community while working in the same building. They have a senior and a junior here at Hibbing High School and a 6th grader at the Lincoln. In Renee Sikora's 27 years in education, she has taught kindergarten through 12th grade. She has coached volleyball, track, diving, math masters, and even 6th grade football. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the current principal of Hibbing High School, Ms. Renee Sikora.
Dustin Davidson is back there, and he needs a big round of applause. He's not only our light and sound and stage guy for everything, not only this week, but all through the school year for school performances and plays and that kind of stuff, but he's also our transportation director, and he just does an amazing job. So Dustin, thank you. And he is my personal clicker tonight, and I'm going to go. I was going to do some funny moves, and he was like, "No, then I have to watch you." So I'm going to go, I used to teach kindergarten, so I'm going to go, beep. Like the books. Good evening. Tonight, I have the honor and privilege to recognize the staff and faculty, past and present. And though we are celebrating 100 years of this amazing school, the most important part is the people. The educators teaching and touching lives each day. About a couple hours ago, beep, I was at Sammy's, or wait, beep, because you have this, beep, beep, beep. There's one more, beep. Okay, 2 hours ago I was at Sammy's. This is the class of 61, and they are in town having their reunion tonight, and they're having so much fun over there that they didn't want to come back here. But they told me to tell you that they're not only the cool class, but they are the hotties. And they're going to watch the video later to make sure that I said that. But one of the gentleman that's right next to me, the taller guy with the glasses, he taught for 36 years after graduating from Hibbing High School. I just met him 2 hours ago. 36 years, and he worked on Title IX to get equal sports for women. And there's a think the lady in blue, her dad taught shop here in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And I wish I remembered her name. But it was just amazing to spend that little bit of time with them and listen to their stories. And a couple weeks ago, I had a reunion with my classmates from 1994. And for those of you working that math out quickly, that puts me at the age of 28. But what I learned is no matter what your age, and these folks are in their 80s, looking great, but the conversation at the reunions is all about their teachers. These people walked around the school with me today. They wanted to see the old pool and the new pool, and they wanted to go to the 4th floor choir room. They wanted to see all these things. They wanted to watch the alumni choir today. And throughout the whole walk down the halls, they were talking about their teachers and the great memories that they had. And one teacher wanted to fail one in diving and swimming, and she didn't like that so much, but it was so great. So my name is Renee Sikora. I'm the principal of Hibbing High School, and I've been in this role for only 2 years. So I feel very humbled and somewhat unworthy to be in your presence. But I will tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up on this stage. I'm not a Hibbing grad, but I'm so proud that my kids will be. I have a senior, a junior, and a 6th grader, and I apologize to the teachers that are going to have him. Dustin, if you could back up. I don't know how you do that, but just, okay. My dad went to nursing school at HCC, and he did that in 1970, and he lived in a building where this woman lived, and clap your hands if you know Big Helen Drzenovich. He was going to nursing school, she lived in the building, and she was a wonderful cook, and she owned a restaurant. She had 4 boys. One of them was John Drzenovich, and he was a principal here. She became like a grandma to me, as you can see. That's me on her after she filled me with her homemade spaghetti. She took my dad in, and the ties that we had from Hibbing, and he worked as a nurse, and then he went on to school to be an anesthetist. So he worked with Dr. Ben Owens. So Big Helen was like a grandma to me. And I got to meet her son, Tommy D, and her granddaughter, and I posted on Facebook. I hired her granddaughter when I worked in Grand Rapids. Her name's Teresa. And I posted this picture on Facebook, and she goes, "How do you know my grandma?" I said, "That's, what?" So we have these connections, and it's pretty amazing. So when I was born in 1996, we lived in Bemidji, and I had never heard someone swear so much as Big Helen until beep, beep, beep. I met Mr. DeCenzo. So I learned, you can swear here and it's okay. My parents were in the medical profession, but I always knew I wanted to teach. Especially in 3rd grade, and remember I went to Bemidji, my teacher was Mrs. Patricia A. Welty. And we all remember the good ones, right? I wanted to be a teacher, I wanted to be just like her. And then when I became a teacher, she was a principal at my school. Then when I became a principal, we got to be colleagues, and now she's a dear friend of mine. She retired last year at the age of 85. She probably would have kept working. She graduated in 1955, and she grew up in the corner house right across the street on 23rd, and lived in Hibbing and went to elementary school here. Her brother is Mike Bajelis, who he was a principal at Nashwauk for 20 years. So, as you know, I taught middle school math, science, reading, then I taught 5th grade, then I taught kindergarten, then I was an elementary principal, then I became an assistant principal at a high school. But I left Bemidji to be closer to my husband, Mr. Will Sikora, and he came over here in 2008. He's a choir director, and you're going to meet him a little bit later. But I took the job in Nashwauk to be close to him, and that's where I met Mike Bajelis and realized that he was my principal's sister, or brother. And then he has a very good friend named Mr. Ken Ricker. He's, I believe, in the audience tonight. He taught math here for 30 plus years. And so, beep. There's Mr. Bajelis and Mr. Ricker, and sometimes they even let me come have coffee with them and tell some stories. And I just want to tell a little story about Ken. He is a true gem of a person. He's generous, he's caring, and I promised I would keep one of his acts of kindness a secret, but I'm not breaking my word tonight. I'm sorry. During COVID, when I was principal at Nashwauk, our seniors couldn't finish out their school year in person. So what he did anonymously is he bought graduation yard signs for every single senior, and we put them in the yard at Nashwauk School. And I just remember how touching that was for not only those seniors and their families, but the whole community would drive by, and I would watch them park their cars and get out and look at the yard signs. So that was wonderful. I reached out to as many teachers that I could to find out their memories, to make sure that I would do justice and tell the stories that need to be told. And Mr. Ricker said that he was a pretty new teacher here. I think it was his second year when the high school was awarded with the Bellamy Award in 1968. And that memory is very vivid. I also reached out to Mary Warner and Terry Bessel, and they both said they had good stories, but nothing I could share. So maybe after this, they can share. Mary taught CNA classes and science classes, and there's so many students that are in the medical profession because of her. And Mr. Bessel at a meeting one time said, nobody cares about us. Like, when we retire, we're just off to the pasture and everything's, no one cares, especially administrators. But I want Terry, he's here today, look around this room and all the people that had you as a teacher or remember you, we do care. I mean, this is a testament that we are all important, and what the teachers do here it's the best thing for the school. So many memories. And when I got my new office, I actually put a quote that I could put from Terry Bessel. Every day is a great day at Hibbing High School. Anyone know who this is? Okay, Mrs. Borland sent me her memories, and she said every year, because she's taught 7th grade here for so many years, she loves to bring down her 7th graders and watch them as they come into this auditorium for the first time for a homecoming coronation. And just to watch their eyes and hear what they say about being immersed in all that pageantry. And she said that just is an amazing experience every year. And by the way, Mrs. Borland was my 7th grade math teacher back in 1987 when she taught in Bemidji, and she was Miss Jones. So the next few slides, I just went into the top of the library. There's a secret room that's historical and has all the yearbooks. And I stole a whole bunch of yearbooks, including the class of 61, and brought it to Sammy's. But I'll return them. But I just went and I took as many pictures of people that are on this list tonight. So I believe that Louis Rocco is in the building, and that's his picture. And I'll leave some of these up here for a little bit because it's hard to see, but there's Lori Shalley and Mike Terrell and Shar Unseth and Todd Versich, Terry Bessel, Mr. Wojciechowski. Wow. Our current Hibbing United Educator Union President, Mrs. Langanke. Yesterday she did the sweetest thing. She took me out to lunch and we talked about all the things. And she said she remembers a time where there was a staff lounges. And there was a staff lounge for the men and a staff lounge for the women. And her first year of teaching, she didn't really know where to go because at that time I think the new principal of that time took away those lounges and combined one. But she said that when you walk by the men's lounge especially, and open the door, smoke would billow out. I just can't imagine. Today, I met Mr. Dale Gibbs. Beep. He's on one of these. But he was part of the science department, and he said that they were so close-knit that every marking period, they would have a gathering, whether they wanted to check out a new restaurant or have a picnic at someone's house, and those friendships have stayed to this day. And so the people that are left in that department, they still get together. And I just think that's another true testament of the relationships that we make as colleagues, as friends. We go through so much together. Beep. Oh, that was him. Did you see him? Back up. Dale. Maybe you noticed, but I'm wearing the Letterman sweater. So this is from 1959. It belonged to Jerry Koslucher. He went by Slush. He graduated in 1959. His wife Joanne also graduated from Hibbing, and she became a teacher in Montana. And she earned a National Teacher of the Year and was honored at the White House. And their daughter, Julie Fairchild, became a teacher. And she gifted me this sweater. This belongs to her dad, Slush. I worked with Julie as a teacher in Bemidji for 4 years before we realized that she worked in Hibbing. She gave me this sweater when I moved here, but she is my aunt's cousin. Like, we are all related. I'm also going to, I want all of our staff and faculty, oh, beep, and beep. I want our staff and faculty to please rise if you can stand up. All the staff and faculty. You're not going to come up here, don't worry. Don't worry, some people were really worried about him doing that. Everyone who signed up, or even if you didn't sign up, if you work here currently, or if you ever worked here in the district, not just at the high school, but any elementary school in Hibbing, please stand. Longer than since 2020. Okay, very good. Longer than 2010. Stay standing if you've been here longer than 2000. $1990? $1980? 1970, 65. Wow, look at the people. And then Schwartz gave me this idea, and I think it's fantastic. So of all of the teachers that were here, how many came back, or how many graduated from Hibbing High School? So you taught here and you graduated, stand up if you can, if you're able to stand up. So you are not only recognized for your dedication as staff, but you also graduated from here. That's amazing. Okay, and then I would like all of the alumni to stand, whether you're teachers or not, all the alumni that are in the audience. So you can stand and please turn to one of your favorite teachers, make eye contact, and clap for them. Okay, I'm gonna go off the cuff a little bit because when I got this, I wanted to see how many people I kind of had connections with and go with a story. So, Joe Arthurs, I interviewed here back in like 2009, and Joe gave me a tour of all the property, and it was wonderful, and I appreciate that very much. Oh, thank you. Lindsay Champion Beer. She was a music teacher when I was an elementary principal in Grand Rapids, and the way that she could get every single student involved and motivated in music was truly like magic to watch, and she's still like that. Steve Erickson, he teaches science here, but I met Steve because he was a Special Olympics basketball coach, and my son was in the Special Olympics basketball, and just he made such a connection and such a blessing to our family. Mr. Roy Bur, we also have some good stories, but he helped us find our house over here, and he's a senator. Carrie Fox was my secretary for a while, and she was also the secretary to Mr. Finko, and she has worked behind the scenes for for the whole week on this stuff, and so she needs a round of applause. Jen 4 was my youngest son, one of his favorite teachers, and yes, so she knows Cooper, and so does Miss Dish, and Ms. Bauer, because he was entitled. He's got, like I said, Cooper's a handful. But so thank you. And Jen 4 is also, she does everything for the district. Golf scramble. She coaches soccer. She does lots of different things, and she drives a big white van because Cooper told me. Mr. Gabardi and Miss Tui and Miss Mandy Husko, they were all teachers, and now I get to work with them as principals, and they're excellent, fantastic to work with. Mrs. Gabardi always puts on a choir concert that all 3 of my kids have been a part of, and I thank her for that. Miss Alex Hansen-Steeny, is she here today? She just got married to Chris Hansen. Both work in the district. Wonderful people, and my daughter's a lifeguard because of Alex, so thank you to her. And Miss Ivy Hansen, we are on ADK together, and she is so welcoming and continues, even after her retirement, to impact our students with scholarships and impact staff with that as well. Oh, Mr. Craig Haddam, where are you? Okay, you know how Mr. Haddam has stories? I get to finally tell this. It's kind of like what goes around comes around, kind of like karma. So, how many of you know Mr. and Mrs. Murfeld? Sarah Murfeld, Mrs. Murfeld. So they got married several years ago when Mr. Sikora was working over here and I wasn't. But we were invited to the wedding. It was a wonderful, beautiful wedding. Mr. Haddam and Mr. Sikora and I were seated at the same table. And Mr. Haddam decided to go on a rant about principals. And after, he talked and bashed for a long time because his stories are not short. And at the very end, he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, Mrs. Sikora, what do you do for a living?" "I'm a principal." So, I'm sorry, but that was such a good story. And he's great. And I want your t-shirt, by the way, too, that I saw today. Miss Lenora Jensen. She is a saint. She's also one of my son's teachers and just does so much for the school. And she and her paras worked really hard this year to come up with the inclusive prom, which was really a treat for our students in our school. Mr. Thad Johansson, I think he traveled the farthest to be here. He came from Nashville today, last night. And let's see, Miss Linda Larson and Miss Dana Lindstrom. I'm going to tell a little secret. After the dance, they went up on the roof and they took pictures of the Northern Lights. So if you saw pictures of Northern Lights from the roof of the school, it was them. They're so fun, and they do so many things for the school climate and culture, so I thank them. I got to meet Terry Munchie, the art teacher, and walking in the building today. Christina Majurley, Whiteside, was my daughter's teacher. We moved over here, and my daughter was really nervous because she'd already moved schools like 4 or 5 times with all of our job changes. But Miss Majurley just really made her feel welcome, and thank you for that, Christina. Carolyn Pengo was she was also on ADK with Ivy, who still are current members, and she was the testing coordinator. Bless her heart, because no administrator wants to be the testing coordinator. Thank you, Carol. Brian Ridgway, he's our school psychologist. He retired, but then he came back, so he's not even retired anymore. That's dedication. And Joe Rocco, our Spanish teacher. And Joe not only takes care of his students, but he's taking care of his dad, and I appreciate that. He's doing a very good job. And Miss Cara Ronin, she was an English teacher, now she's our librarian. She's very, you think that she's really quiet, but when she's giving a speech or directing her class, she's very loud. She's amazing. She turns into a different person. Liz Scipione, we don't work together, but she's wild and fun and crazy and loud, and we do a teacher appreciation every spring, and she's all about the door prizes and having fun. She also is working all the events here for concerts and does a wonderful job, but I just appreciate her spirit and energy. I got to be on the interview committee for Miss Jenna Stampahar, and her students and her cooperating teachers just can't speak highly enough about all the things she does for our kids, so thank you to Jenna. And Mr. Tyne. Mr. Tyne is a newer teacher to our school, but he and I just went to Washington, D.C. with 44 students and some staff and some teachers, and chaperoned that trip, and he was like a walking encyclopedia, and it was wonderful. At Gettysburg, he could have been the tour guide, and so we are just blessed to have him in our building, so thank you, Mr. Tyne. Mrs. Zubich really wanted to come up and do a solo, but I talked her out of it. She's actually a wonderful singer. She's a wonderful director. She does the spring plays, and so thank you, Ms. Zubich. And she teaches English. And finally, he's not on this list, but I saw him sneak in with Sylvie. Mr. Wetzel is here. Mr. Wetzel is cool, calm, collected, and he's so cool, calm, and collected that during the Knowledge Bowl, when there weren't enough seats in the Suburban, he put a kid in a cargo hold. But we don't tell those stories, right? He's amazing. So, beep, 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 I guess. I'm sorry I didn't. There's Miss Langanke at the top, there's some more teachers. Miss Berg is in there, Miss Warner. Like I said, I just took a lot. Ooh, there's Craig Haddam. Go back one, because it says something on there. Trying to impress everyone with his huge biceps. And hairy chest. Gary Milani? Yeah. Found all these oldies and goodies. Oh, and Gail, she's I heard Mr. Hench's. Oh, I have a friend who's from Hibbing. She's in her 50s now, and she went through this list because I asked her to, and every single person that she had as a teacher, she said was just phenomenal. And she mentioned Mr. Hench's by name. So thank you for your work. There's just some more faculty. Mr. Wetzel's up there, I see. And here is our current Blue Jacket staff. I just again want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I know that it's really warm, it's beautiful outside. Sammy's has stuff going on, and the street is closed down. So there's lots of things that could be going on, but you took the effort and made the time to come here to recognize your teachers and teachers to be here to be recognized, and I hope that you feel the love tonight. And with that, I get to introduce Patty Stoddard. And Mr. Sikora, they're going to have their alumni choir sing a couple songs, but before the choir comes up, there's going to be a soloist and a duet. So come on up, and we're excited to hear from you. Thank you so much. Go Blue Jackets!
Thank you, Ms. Sikora. I just want to talk a little bit about what the choir is going to be singing as they're making their way up on stage. They're going to be performing 4 songs tonight. The first selection is The Girl in 14G, a solo sung by 2003 Hibbing High School graduate Jennifer Milani, accompanied by her brother Chris Milani from the class of 2000. The second is a song that goes like this, a duet featuring Nathan Lahi, class of 2003, and Jennifer Milani from the class of 2003. The next song, the third song, titled The Awakening, and is being directed by current Hibbing High School director Will Sikora, and will be accompanied by Nadine Bird on piano. And the final selection is a song that was sung at Hibbing High School commencements from the 1940s through the early 2000s, the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and will be directed by former Hibbing High School choir director Patty Stoddard, and will be accompanied by Nadine Berg on the piano and Tom Hamilton on the Barton pipe organ. All right, as soon as they're all set, we will start with the alumni choir.
14G, so cozy, calm, and peaceful. Heaven for a mouse like me, with quiet by the leaseful. Pets are banned, parties too, and no solicitation. Window seat with garden view, a perfect nook to read a book. I'm lost in my Jane Austen when I hear. Say it isn't so, not the flat below. From an opera wannabe in 13G, a matinee of some cantata, Wagner's Ring and Traviata. My first night in 14G, I'll put up with Puccini, brew myself a cup of tea, crochet until she's feeny, 8:30, not a peep, except the clock tick-tocking. Now I lay me down to sleep, a comfy bed to rest my head, I stretch, I yawn, I'm almost gone then. To beats, walk, to tattoo, to spin a door, to live, na 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 na. Whee! Now the girl upstairs wakes me unawares, blowing down from 15G, her Emily. She's cat like her name is Ella, yes, who answers a cappella. Su-du-du-fla-di, oh, su-du-du-fla-di, oh. I'm not one to raise my voice, make a fuss, or speak my mind, but my
Once in every show, there comes a song like this. It starts off soft and low and ends up with a kiss. Oh, where is the song that goes like this? Where is it? Where? You know?
A sentimental song that casts a magic spell. They all will hum along, will overact like hell. And this is our song that goes like this.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
This is it. I knew it.
Yes,
Now we can go straight into the middle eight, a bridge that is too far for me.
I'll sing it in your face while we both embrace,
And then we change the key. Now we're into E. That's awfully high for me.
but everyone can see we should have stayed in D.
This is the song that goes like this. I'm feeling very proud.
You're singing far too loud.
That's the way that this song goes.
You're standing on my toes.
Singing the song that goes like this.
I can't believe there's more.
It's far too long, I'm sure.
That's the trouble with this song. It goes on and on and on.
For this is our song that is too long. My God, it's still going.
We'll be singing this till dawn.
You'll wish that you weren't born
Let's stop this damn refrain.
before we go insane. The song always ends like this.
Great job, that's very entertaining. All right, we're gonna have the alumni choir come out now. Patty Stoddard and I came up with this idea this spring when we knew they were gonna celebrate the 100th anniversary. And I approached her about it, she's like, do you think anybody will come? And I'm like, I don't know, we gotta try, let's try it. So our goal was to have around 100 people, and we had 122 registered as of this morning. But we have, this is really fun. We have about 100, just over 100 here right now. We practice from 4:30 to 6:15, and that's it. So what you're gonna hear is gonna be pretty good actually. You're very surprised. But we have people represented from many of the decades. From 1966 is our oldest graduate that's here, all the way to 2024 grads. So it's been a fun day so far. We thank Mrs. Berg for playing with us and accompanying the choir. But we're gonna do two selections. I'll conduct the Awakening, and then we're gonna have the Battle Hymn of the Republic with Mrs. Stoddard. We're gonna have the organ play for that as well. But you just look at all these smiling faces, and we have a lot of kids in our class throughout the years, and we're very proud and happy that these kids came back to spend a couple of hours with us today.
I'd like to thank some of the sponsors and tell you all throughout the years, the Hibbing businesses have been so supportive of music in this community that it is very humbling and just an honor to work with all the businesses that have ever given money to the choir to support their goals. And in this case, they helped tonight. Checo's and Perella and Associates and Sportsman's and Ford of Hibbing, Super One Foods, Security State Bank, North Country GM. Would you give all of them a round of applause? I'm so grateful to be a part of the whole celebration, the choir. I'm especially grateful also to Will for carrying on the program and for doing such an awesome job with students today. He is an awesome director and an awesome person, and he has carried the program farther, and he truly respects the students. He is very, very musically talented, and the students here are getting a very world-class education in choir. So thank you.
Start with The Awakening. This is a song written by a student for his choir director, and it's about letting music live, even though this choir director met a tragic end to her life. He wrote this song in memory of his choir director, and a tremendous impact on his personal life and musical life. The Awakening. That was really fun. That's awesome. We have not taken a big picture yet, so we're going to pause for 1 minute. Anyone takes a good picture of the group, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right. How about another round of applause for the alumni choir? All right. This building and all the buildings in this district would not look as beautiful without the dedication of a lot of people. So much goes on behind the scenes, and we would not be here enjoying this night without their help. Our custodial and maintenance staff are the unsung heroes that make this building look the way they do, and most of the time are working when no one's around to see them. Keeping any building looking good for 100 years is a nearly impossible task. However, the Hibbing High School continues to amaze. This next presenter was one of the leaders of that group. He's a member of the class of 1973, and he's the former building and grounds supervisor for 30 years. He had a large role in the renovation of this building, this beautiful room, and the seats you're currently seated in. He and current building and grounds supervisor Tyler Glad have made sure that this building stays beautiful for now and for the next 100 years. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Joe Arthurs.
Thank you. It's great to be back at Hibbing High School Auditorium. And Kim, thank you for programming me right behind that beautiful choir. You know, when Kim called and asked if I would be willing to come back and speak again, of course I would do it. I'd do it for her, do it for the community. The district meant so much to me and my family. We're all grads here, my wife and I, both of our kids. So it's great to come back and touch base with so many people. As I was walking in and visiting around in the hall today, I ran into one of my most influential teachers, like it is for so many people, Howard Goetz. So I told Howard that story and said, you know, my gosh almighty, you got me into some advanced biology classes and I just really appreciate it. And he said, wow, you must be about 70. I said, pretty close, yeah. So yeah, thanks Howard, it was great. The other teacher I ran into, and I thought it was pretty touching because actually I talked to my son today and told him I was coming to speak, and my son Jeff, the oldest son, he's the facility director of Maple Grove Osseo Schools, followed in Dad's footsteps doing that. But he said, if you happen to see my favorite teacher, say hi to him. So Terry Vessel, and Terry was his most influential teacher. You know, we're here to talk a little bit about the Hibbing High School auditorium restoration, but really the whole district kind of fits together into that. The auditorium is a piece, it's a very important piece to the community, but public school systems always struggle with funding, and you're trying to, at the time when we started, we had nearly 1 million square feet of building. And we were trying to balance with a capital budget of about $1 million. That doesn't go very far, you can imagine. So you're always struggling with priorities. How are we going to fit all of that in? That's okay, that's our challenge. School boards are phenomenal at trying to help us. I had excellent leaders and superintendents over the career. Funny superintendent story. Every year, I took a lot of pride in trying to know every single faculty member in our district. I touch base with them in their classrooms, in their setting, all the time. Something I just believed in. Frankly, I truly believed I worked for every one of you that were involved. That's our role, that's our job in facilities, is to make sure that you get the best opportunity to educate all of our kids, including my own. So that's what I always tried to keep a focus of. So it was kind of fun. Every year I would take our superintendent on a building tour. What the intent was to welcome back teachers into the school year, which was kind of like the spring of the school year. So we take them on a tour. They get to thank the facility people for doing a good job of getting the buildings prepared and get to meet them all. Well, frankly, most every one of our superintendents knew most of all of our staff anyway. We happen to have one superintendent who was probably a fine superintendent, but not from around here. We'd go into a building, didn't have a clue, didn't know a single one. Before we got to every classroom, I told them who the teacher was, some small story about them so that they could relate when he walked in. And I remember that whole year everybody going, I just can't believe he knew my name even. But that's okay, that was our role, that's our job. You know, Hibbing High School, built in 1920, wonderful building, put together. It had some unique challenges. In Minnesota legislature in 1989 passed a law that required the fire marshal to go through every building and bring them all up to code. Well, bringing Hibbing High School up to code was a pretty big challenge. So one of the things I'll talk about specifically to the auditorium, you know, they required us to sprinkle basically all buildings. I knew if we popped sprinkler heads down through all of this, that's where I'd be strung up. So we had to work, you know, my partner in crime for my entire career was Scott Wharton, and a business manager. He was fabulous at it. So Scott and I went down to St. Paul and testified down at the legislature asking for an appeal for Hibbing High School. They directed us across St. Paul over to the state fire marshal's office. We spent 2 days over there explaining to them what impact this might have. So they said we still had to comply, but we came up with some creative solutions. So we have redundant protection in here. In other words, we have sprinklers in the attic. However, they are backed with air, and then if that compressor goes down and gets set off in the attic, eventually water will come forward, but it's a little bit of a delay so that we have the opportunity to protect this building. And then we have electronic beam detectors in here. Frankly, every graduating class, Renee, you'll get this, every graduating class lets balloons or something go during jacket jamboree, and we set them all off. And then we got to decide if we have to exit the building. So it's an annual ritual. I think no one can remember year to year that it's going to happen. It happens in the corridor out here too, so that's where it often could trigger. You know, we're all sitting in here comfortably tonight because in 2012, Minnesota Department of Ed required everybody to do an indoor air quality study, which improved the air in all regular classrooms, but in that was an option that we brought to the school board to air condition this space. It was costly, but it was recommended. Both Scott and I recommended it to the board, and thankfully the board said, yeah, let's do that. We'll be able to use and program this building more usefully throughout the year, and I can tell you many times people have thanked us for that. Graduating ceremonies can get awful warm, so. Yeah, it's worked out pretty well. You know, renovating the auditorium, we all see this here today as new lighting, new seats. Perhaps we even go just a little bit further. We have some other new equipment in here, but it's a little bit more than that. You know, we added in a whole new heating system. We added a roof over the top of this. When we put a roof in, this is a state-of-the-art roof that has a 30-year warranty, and a 50-year life expectancy. So thankfully with our design team, we made very valued choices to protect this building for a very long time. So again, when you have a historic building like this, your costs are higher, your operating costs are higher, your maintenance costs are higher, but they're worth it. I'm telling you right now, it's worth it. It's a beautiful building. This facility also had other challenges. When we had to comply with ADA, accessibility was a very difficult thing. It's elevated with stairs around here. Even our public restrooms outside were not accessible. Scott and I marched down to St. Paul again. We worked with the legislature to get the very first grant in a public school to bring handicap accessibility into Hibbing High School. We were thankful for that. So that same year that we got awarded the grant, we had a graduating student for the first time that we're able to bring up a lift right out here and across the stage. And that mother was so thankful to the district that they still to this day, I won't say who it is, but still to this day thanks us for going that extra mile to bring dignity to that graduate, to make them feel exactly like all the others. And that's what it's all about. You know, support of public schools is about community involvement. I've been a part of something like 12 public presentations where you go out and try to pass referendums and presentations, but one of the very first ones I ever did taught me one of the most valuable lessons of my professional career. We're currently on a tour of doing 28 presentations in a month, and we happen to be presenting at Kiwanis, and the president of the Kiwanis Club said to me, "Joe, maybe you guys shouldn't just come here when you're asking for money. Maybe you should come here and tell us all the good things that are going on in the schools every year." And I took that to heart. And I won't say his name. Jack Trember told me no. Jack said, "Joe, you need to get out here and start doing that." And you know, from that day on, for more than 20 years, I went to every single support club every single year to tell them about the good things that were going on inside the walls of our school district. So they heard firsthand. You know, we often think of opening up our schools to have people of the public come in and speak at our board meeting. We need to go to them too. And it gives us an opportunity to be in their turf, and they're more comfortable. And it's something that was valuable to me. I think it really gave us insight into what they were thinking. So we were able to keep going on that. Now I'm going to move on and tell you a little bit about the timeline of how this thing came about. So I hope you understand, doing projects like this, everybody can understand painting walls, doing all of this, putting in new lighting. It really begins with people. My favorite line, Will came here, 2008? Will was the first person to look me up and said, "Joe, there's some things we need to tackle." And he was so right on, and it was so helpful. And one of them was we have to get new choir risers. So we had a vehicle, we had a plan for it, we implemented it, we got new choir risers, and then he said, "Well, are you expecting me to move them down to my choir room then when I'm done?" So he actually wanted 2 sets. So we bought another set for down at the choir room. But Will he was always one of those people who was looking forward, and I give him so much credit. That's the driving force behind some of these things, are these people that work right within these buildings. So choir, drama, band, they were all phenomenal in helping us lay out what we needed to do. Renee, you mentioned Dustin Davidson. I was going to talk about Dustin Davidson. You know that in almost my entire career, Dustin was here in high school. He was actually helping out. So it's got to be more than 25 years, Dustin. You've been sitting back behind those light boards, and thank you for all that you've done. And with that, we brought state-of-the-art light and sound equipment in here, and a presentation station. I'll talk about that. It was pretty special. So that's pretty good. You know, we tried a lot of avenues when it comes to funding. Scott Wharton and I accompanied Bob Beluza one time. We went down to the state capitol and we talked to the state bonding committees, which is in the House and the Senate, and invited them up here to try to see if a public school could get state bonding money. Now, it had never been done before, but we thought it was worth a try. Roger Moe was Senate chairman at the time, and I knew Roger pretty well from being down there, a young guy from Erskine, who was about 80 at that time. Anyway, they did come up here, and they toured our facility, loved it, but didn't feel like it fit. So we knew we were on the right track, so we just had to keep working at it. Our next goal was to say, how do we start working with the school board about what all we need in this building? So we formed a district-wide committee that included band and choir and board members and administration, and started laying out this magnificent renovation idea. And when we put the idea together, it started building a budget and a timeline, and that timeline, frankly, is pretty long when your budgets are pretty tight. So we have to look for ways that we can bridge those gaps. There's a magnificent plaque out there in the corner that is a tribute to, just outside in the hall, if you have never taken the time to study it. It's a plaque of a dream, I think, that started to come together. So we went, actually it was Scott and I went over to the IRRB and met with Commissioner Mark Phillips. Mark was a wonderful man, and he was a big backer of education. You may not know this, but his wife Patty used to be a superintendent in North St. Paul before they moved up here. So he just had a passion for education. And we started talking to Mark about, you know, what can we possibly do to get some funding to help us with this program? Well, thanks be to him, about a month after we met with him, he came back and he said, kind of have an idea, but you guys are going to have to get some skin in the game. And we said, we're up for it. We'll try it. So he said, we're gonna try to put together a program, and I'll try to read exactly what he said. It was going to be about to restore regional, local, and statewide buildings and properties that contribute to the strength of our area. Mark was pretty insightful, thought that this would fit for other people, but Hibbing was going to be first. So we worked through that program. It took us a few months. The board passed it. We brought it back to our local school board. They were all for it. But it put a challenge on us. It put a challenge on us in the sense that we had to match about 50% of what they were going to put in. I mean, we had to be 100% of what they were going to put in, so we were going to be, total dollars, 50% of the funds. That's a big task to ask for this big renovation. Our first stop was the Owens Foundation. So Scott and I paid a visit. We knew everybody who served on that board. Paid a visit with them to see if this might fit their mission. It was the very first grant that they awarded. And we got them, after about 3 months, we got them all the details that they requested, and they committed to put $125,000 a year for 4 years, for a total of $500,000 into this project. And we're so thankful for it. That seed money really kicked us all off. It really got us going. We went back to the board. They were excited, willing to accept that grant, but we're still a ways away. One of the things that we needed to do was find a way to get the community more involved. So we discussed with the school board that here's the scope. We have a big project, and we think we need to raise some pretty significant funds for public funds. Are you okay with us going and asking them, outside of a referendum, if we can generate some funds? Now, we're not talking car washes and bake sales. We're looking at some pretty big money. And they said, yes, let's do it. So they nominated 2 of their very own members to that committee, and we selected 8 others from the community. And this small group got together and started saying, how can we raise money in our community? Well, believe it, it's like everything. It's grassroots. We just got going, and in the first month, they had generated $150,000. In the second month, we were already at $225,000. By the end of the third month, we exceeded our goal of $300,000 in that short period of time. So thank you to the community. Let's give them, I mean, it's everybody. So again, our $300,000, the IRRB had $300,000, and that extra $300,000 that we generated with the community, it allowed us to start to bridge the gap between what we thought we could fund and what our whole focus group thought we really needed here. One of the things they really wanted to have, performance groups, was a choir shell. So choral groups, high school sized choral groups, not like this beautiful choral group that was here with 120 members, need to have a little bit of a boost to be able to have the sound transfer out to us. So we worked with the likes of Patty Stoddard, people like Will were advocating for this, Amy Dahl and band, frankly even drama thought there was some actual use for this thing, and that came at a price tag of about $120,000. With the extra $300,000 we generated, that was now possible. Phenomenal that we were able to, so we ordered that immediately. The board said, let's get it going, because right at that meeting, might have even been Kim who I give credit to this, but the board said something that was pretty dramatic when we started this auditorium project there. They said, let's do it once, let's do it right. So let's thank them. I mean, that was phenomenal. So with all of that, then there was this idea of a projection screen that would be used awful lot for high school activities. We even use it now for drama, and it is state-of-the-art along with our soundboard and our lights. You realize that we now consume, when every light in this place is running, every single one, 10% of the energy we used to consume in here. So it's phenomenal energy conservation and better service, better lighting. So thanks to our design team and all of our professionals that help guide us along the way in our teaching ranks. So we appreciated that. You know, when you work in Hibbing High School, we have a lot of scrutiny that happens, not just with the public, which is fine, that's expected. Minnesota Historical Society keeps a really close eye on us. Which is fine, but it is dot your I's and cross your T's on every aspect of a project. So when we put out construction documents, they said, give us 6 months to review those documents. 6 months. And then if there's changes, they want 3 more months to review them after that. So you can see the time it takes to put a project together. All in the end works out, it gets a great project, but it's very time consuming. There's a lot of accountability to go with that. And at this point, they were contributing not $1. So the Historical Society just is watching over to make sure things are done correctly. And again, I didn't mind the process, it's time consuming. It takes on. Now again, I just want to wrap up and say that projects like this beautiful auditorium restoration is really about the people that we serve and working with all of them to make sure that we meet their needs. Somebody like Renee Sikora, what do you need? What does Will need? What does drama and band? And what do all of the students need to make this the best place possible for the next 100 years? I think we came pretty close. Thanks to all of you. Lastly, thanks for all the support over the years. I'm proud to say that in my entire tenure, almost 34 years, every single time we went out to ask for public funds, we were approved in this community. That's not the case in statewide. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Arthurs. Our last presenter this evening is Mr. R.J. Thiel. Mr. Thiel is a member of the class of 1978, a fourth generation Hibbingite. He comes from a family of 8 Hibbing alums. He reluctantly moved away in 1982 He was a radio personality at Hibbing's WFG from 1977 to 1982, back when it was a real radio station. Then KCLD in St. Cloud for a couple years before leaving radio to earn a real living. After working in retail and nonprofit, he found out people would pay him to mess around with their computers until the thing actually worked. In 2023, he retired after working 30 years in technology for other people. He now owns and operates TechWizards.biz and works for his spouse of 41 years, Jerry. She's the class of 1979. RJ has always had a loyal love for Hibbing and the range. He has stayed as active as possible in Hibbing by volunteering and donating whenever possible for events like the 1993 Centennial, the 2014 All Class, and now the Hibbing High School Centennial. Always being considered as a know-it-all, he co-created a Facebook group, Hibbing Trivia and Lore. This group shares Hibbing trivia, history, stories, memorabilia, photos, and much more with its 6,000 plus members. Since its formation, members of the group are responsible for contributing nice donations to the Dillon Project, the Hibbing Foundation, the Hibbing Historical Society. He also started the Hibbing Alumni page, the Hibbing Community College Alumni page, and many other groups. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. R.J. Field.
Good evening. It's almost over. I only have a short 45-minute slideshow. I'm actually out here to speak kind of about Hibbing Trivia and Lore because this is a trivial event and it will be part of Hibbing Trivia and Lore. If you're not a member of Facebook, there's a little group that my friend Mike Pucka and I started in 2010, so almost 15 years now. That's just Hibbing Trivia and Lore. Pictures, stories, you know, everything under the sun, trivia and lore. 6,000 members now. So we do have 6,000 people and we'd love to have more. And a lot of people don't like to get on social media because it's so scary, but I'll tell you what, if you go to the website for this event, Hibbing, hs100.org or hibbinghs100.com, it doesn't matter which one you'll get there. You can send an email to info and I will tell you if you're afraid of social media how to get into Facebook and set it up so you don't see anything but what you want, especially Hibbing Trivia and Lore. So, and we started a long time ago doing everything, taking pictures, and thank God for the Aubins who bought my great-grandfather's photo studio and took all the pictures and have all the history. And now we've got so many people flooding in with more pictures, more stories, and everything under the sun about the high school, how the town was built. And in reality, I was gonna have some slides here tonight, kind of went a little long, but with asking some trivia questions, you know, stuff like, and Mike, you might be here, but we pretty much have the definitive answer now, who Howard Street was named after. And it wasn't Howard Weirich, the doctor that saved everybody during the pandemic, the Spanish flu. It was the son of the developer who sold the land to the city of Hibbing and the Oliver Mining Company. So that's kind of definitive. That's the kind of junk that you'll see on our page. And it is a lot of fun. So one thing is though, if you haven't been to and you have any need for information, the hibbinghs100.org website is going to continue, and the information that's on there, I'm just going to keep expanding more and more items, information, video connections to all the stuff that Mr. Workla and HPAT did, so you can get to that stuff easily and review any of these things that you might have missed. The importance is of just about this building, and one of the things we like to do with Hibbing Trivia and Lore is occasionally we will hold sales of t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff. We try to let the city merchants do their thing first in an event like this, but when it dies down, we start putting things in our group because then we can raise money for the Hibbing Foundation or the Auditorium or the school or the Historical Society, and we've done that to the tune of about $4,500 over the last couple of years. And that's our members, thank you. It's not just me and Mike, but, I mean, you know, you get a t-shirt that says something like, everybody knows somebody from Hibbing on the back of it, or one of them said on the back, just another famous person from Hibbing. You know, so, but that's why you know, yes, it's a hopeless shill pledge or plea to join our group. We'd really like to get more people so we can raise some more money. The only thing I'd like to say is what a privilege it's been for me to be up here during this week and work on the committee and do what we had to do after Kathy Nyberg's passing. And, Kathy, we're all still a little mad at you for that. But in reality, what a pleasure it is and to see so many people come out and enjoy themselves and appreciate our auditorium and the high school and the faculty and the staff and all the things that went into our history. If you were here last night, I briefly told you about that I worked at WMFG. So one of the things in Hibbing trivia and lore that you would learn would be what WMFG stood for. I mean, a lot of radio stations, TV stations, there's actually a name that is an acronym that are the call letters. And I was surprised that nobody knew what it was. But now I could either tell you what it actually means, or you could join the group and find out. But the alternative to what it actually means is the disc jockeys that work there, disc jockeys, we said that it stood for Were Mother Good. But a quick story and then I'm done, and we're gonna let Kim get out here. But this is a Hibbing trivia thing if there ever was one. We used to have on Sundays, the FCC insists that, you know, radio stations as public service, you do things like air church services and school events and stuff like that. Well, some of them were live. We had a ISDN line going to a church, and some of them were recorded. And usually the pastor or a church person from the church was responsible for bringing a tape in from either that morning or the previous night, and then we'd play them on Sunday. Now, being a 17-year-old kid working on a radio station, you know, I said, oh yeah, great, okay, Sunday's just kind of a breeze shift. Get on at 5 o'clock in the morning, work till 3, go home, sleep all day. But we also had all those churches of so many different denominations and nationalities, including the Russian Orthodox Church out of Chisholm. One Sunday morning, I'm dozing away in the chair, and I had just started the church service. And, you know, I started on, now the Russian Orthodox Church presents today's service. And you turn it on, and it's, phone lights up like crazy. I'm listening to it, wow, what's wrong? People on the phone, hello, WMFG, you're playing it backwards. Gee, I'm not responsible for that. They are supposed to rewind that. So it's, okay, I break in real quick. I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties. We'll be right back after this message. Now you understand this is the Russian Orthodox Church in Chisholm, and if you know what a PSA is, public service announcement, we used to have a rack of recordings next to the chair where the announcer sits, and I just grabbed the first one I could. You know, and I popped it in, and it was for contraceptives. But after that happened, I got to quickly, I rewound the tape, I turned it around, I got it on another spool, did it in record time, put it back up, and I said, we now rejoin our church service in progress. And I turned it on, and it went, it sounded the same to me. But they called and said it was all just fine. But I kind of stuck to English with that. But with that, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. Thank you for everything that you've done as students or teachers or alumni or faculty and staff, janitorial, everybody. What a ride it's been for 100 years. Hibbing Trivia and Lore has been around for almost 15, like I said, and it's a hopeless plug for it, but geez, please join and go to our website because we'll keep adding more stuff. So that's it for me. Good night. Thanks for coming, and go to the parade tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Theo. And if you get a chance, please jump on the Facebook groups and the different sites and take a look at all the hard work he's done for the town of Hibbing and for the schools. All right, over the last week, we've celebrated 100 years of Hibbing High School by highlighting an aspect of what has made this school great for over a century. We started by celebrating the arts, the art and architecture of the school itself, and enjoyed performances by many artists that have gotten their start at HHS. Next, we feature many athletic achievements of our very talented alumni with speakers that spoke of their days here at Hibbing High School and how that time has influenced their lives and careers. And then on Monday, we put a focus on the distinguished achievements in academics in our school with presenters from current and former students and a tribute to the class of 2020. On Tuesday, we showcased the talents and achievements of our many alumni, and we were treated to presentations and performances from alumni from many generations. This beautiful room, all the many events that have been held here in all the theaters, many treasures, including the Barton organ, were the focus of Wednesday night. Thursday was dedicated to music. Memories and melodies filled the air and enwrapped us all. Tonight we wrap up our week of celebration with more memories and honors. On Tuesday we celebrated the alumni of Hibbing High School, and we said that the students give the school its life, its energy, but it's the faculty and staff that give the school its heart and soul. And tonight we'd like to recognize all those past and present that have worked here at the Hibbing High School. Over the last century, we've had teachers that have had degrees from the most prestigious colleges in the US, Columbia University, Princeton, the University of Iowa, Harvard, Rutgers, and Notre Dame, to name a few. We've had 25 Teachers of the Year, both state and nationally recognized, coaches in many athletic halls of fame, and teachers and staff that publish books, won awards, and traveled internationally to enhance their teaching practices. Hibbing has always had very dedicated and hardworking teachers right from the start. Teachers here at Hibbing worked many long hours, teaching the children during the day, and then teaching Americanization and citizenship classes to many immigrants in the area at night. They would also teach what were called home classes. These classes were taught to women that could not leave the house and attend naturalization classes at the school. They would gather the neighborhood women in one house, and the instructor would go to them and teach English and give citizenship classes so the women would become Americans along with their husbands and children. In 1924, 107 graduates passed across this stage. Among them was a young woman named Valborg Peterson. Little did she know that at that moment she would become a beloved teacher here at HHS and would go on to write our sportsmanship song that we still sing at all HHS sporting events to this very day. In 1927, a young woman who was the secretary of the YMCA in Hilo, Hawaii, left the paradise of the island to become the Dean of Girls at Hibbing High School. She must not have regretted that decision even after her first winter here in Minnesota, as she remained the Dean of Girls until 1943. Stories like these abound in the history of our faculty and staff. All week we have seen the far-reaching influences of our teachers at HHS on our presenters and performers. As Henry Brooks Adams once spoke, a teacher affects eternity. They can never tell where their influence stops. So thank you, teachers. This night has been dedicated to you. Finally, in closing for myself, the last speaker to come out here had a lot to do with this week. I know this week was a vision of Kathy Nyberg, and she's going to talk a little about Kathy when she comes out here. But Kathy Nyberg came up with, was thinking of different ways to honor this school in the 100 years that went on here. And in her passing, Kim McLaughlin, who's coming out next, said she decided she was going to take this on and continue what Kathy had started. We really have got to thank Ms. McLaughlin for her dedication, for all the time she's put into not only this week, but also her dedication to the school district as a whole. I mean, you go to any event, be it at any elementary school, out at Cheever Field, sporting events, school events, we have our Deck the Halls at the Lincoln and different things, you'll always see Ms. McLaughlin there. She is super dedicated to everything we do, and it's just an honor that she asked me to be up here, and it's an honor for me to introduce Ms. Kim McLaughlin.
Thank you. Happy Hibbing High School Day, everyone. To the some 27,000 graduates who over the course of the last 100 years have walked across this very stage, congratulations. Tonight, I not only want to congratulate you, but I also want to thank you for your being with us tonight. Thank you for being with us over the course of this past week, and thank you for the difference you continually make locally, across the state, across the country, and across the world. You are proof that where you come from matters, and proof of just how special this school and this community will always be. It has been a truly amazing week, coming together and celebrating everything that Hibbing High School stands for. The academics, the athletics, the arts of all kinds, the magnificent facility we have, but most importantly, the amazing students, alumni, faculty, staff, and administration, both past and present. It is the generations of people who are truly at the heart and soul of the Hibbing schools and make our schools what they are. This week we've had an opportunity to hear from alumni who have come together to speak so fondly of the Hibbing schools, their educations, and the relationships, and how it all helped in shaping them into the proud citizens of today. Not only have we heard inspiring memories, we've watched spectacular performances from many talented Hibbing High School alumni. We've gone on tours, we've shared our history of a town that literally moved. We have reconnected with family and friends. And when you're on the Iron Range, we all know we're all family. And tonight, I really just want to thank everyone who has made this week possible. Inevitably, if I tried to name everyone, we'd be here for weeks. And undoubtedly, I would miss someone and I'd be in trouble. So to each of you, thank you for your part in making this week memorable and something that will be talked about for months to come. There are many Blue Jacket alumni who are no longer with us, and so tonight I want to remember each of them as well. But tonight, there's one special person, one Blue Jacket alumni that I would like to acknowledge by name. That person is a Hibbing High School class of 1977 graduate, a friend, and a school board colleague. And she is Kathy Bugliosi-Nyberg. Over the course of this week, so many have asked how this 100th anniversary celebration of Hibbing High School came to be. Well, a year ago, this very weekend, at the conclusion of the 2023 Jubilee Parade, Kathy and I bumped into one another. And, of course, we looked ahead to the 2024 parade, and we agreed that in 2024, as a school board, we would celebrate the 100th anniversary of the completion of Hibbing High School. And we agreed that we would have a float in the parade. So, there was a pause. Kathy emphatically ordered that I would walk in the parade and that she would ride. So we went on our way, summer came to a close, and football season was upon us. For those of you that don't know, Kathy was so very proud of our recently renovated Cheever Field Owens Stadium. And ironically, it was her son-in-law, Matt Anderson's inaugural season as the head varsity coach of the Blue Jackets football team. Kathy was so very proud. I don't think there was one home game that Kathy didn't attend, cheering on the team or helping in some way. Kathy was always thinking of ways to improve not only Cheever Field Owens Stadium, but our Hibbing schools in general. Fast forward, high school football season was over. And one Sunday afternoon, I received a call from Kathy. She called to remind me that Hibbing High School was soon going to turn 100 years old. And it was during that very same call that she informed me that she and I were going to chair the committee and celebration of this magnificent event. I was really at a loss for words. I fumbled, and I kind of spewed out, reminding Kathy that I graduated from Chisholm. As I recall the conversation, she just glossed right over that, quickly absolving me and telling me it was okay. She said, I love Chisholm too because my mother, Joanne Bugliosi, was a Chisholm graduate. So she told me with my decades of involvement in Hibbing and in the Hibbing schools, it was okay. And again, for those of you that know Kathy, there really was no chance to say no. So Kathy acknowledged that I was busy because I was still working and she had the good fortune of being retired. She assured me that it would not be a problem. She was retired, she knew all the people, she would make all the phone calls. So I was truly flattered when she just flat out said she just needed me by her side and together we could see it through. After a brief pause, my answer to Kathy was simply, I'd be honored. With the holidays shortly upon us, this committee had hardly gotten started. And I'm going to just add here, most of our meetings, we heard the same historical stories over and over and over, but it was all good. And so it was in the morning hours of Thursday, January 4th, 2024, only shortly after leaving Kathy following the school board meeting, where in fact we pondered about what this very week might look like. What this very week might look like. When I learned of Kathy's unexpected passing, this truly brought a numbness to almost everybody that knew Kathy, myself included. Today, Kathy's passing continues to foster a sense of disbelief. Kathy's love for her family, her love of Hibbing, and her pride in the Hibbing schools were second to none. She was a Blue Jacket at heart. As this numbness turned into reality, I pondered what we had started. I knew the celebration of this magnificent school was something that Kathy would want to go on. After a period, our group came back together, rolled up our sleeves, and it was Kathy's passion for the Hibbing schools that inspired this group to make this week possible. So to the core committee that kept the ball rolling, and to the many, many who contributed in any way, again, thank you. And by the way, you can only imagine the conversations that I have had with Kathy these past few months, and also this past week. No doubt Kathy is smiling down on Hibbing today and every day. Hibbing High School, the Hibbing schools, this is truly an amazing place to go to school. Going to school surrounded by the beauty and elegance of Hibbing High School is something that not everybody experiences. And although we have a magnificent facility, and I am so proud of the facility we maintain today, in a time in which so many are abandoning rich history for something far less spectacular, the Hibbing schools have truly made an investment in this school and an investment in education, both a top priority. We continue to challenge Hibbing students and provide them with educational opportunities that will set them up for success. We have invested in our earliest learners. We work to attract the best and brightest faculty, staff, and administrators. We invest in curriculum, and we are working to deliver courses using the latest and greatest technology, all while maintaining this beautiful Hibbing High School and all of our beautiful buildings. I hope, and I think we have made proud all of those community members who saw their dream come to life when this castle in the woods was built 100 years ago, and all the generations since, who have made the first 100 years of Hibbing High School nothing short of extraordinary. I could go on talking about the Hibbing schools and all the amazing things that have happened in these walls over the last century, and all the amazing graduates. But as we're winding down this celebratory week, there is something most touching and most inspiring that I believe is so important to share with you, and in particular, with all of the amazing educators, and particularly those here this evening. And not only do I want to share this with you, but again, I also want to say thank you for all you did and for all you do to carry on the academic excellence and the commitment to a strong community that the Hibbing schools stand for. This past Tuesday, following Monday evening's Bellamy presentation, I received a completely unexpected telephone call from Rome, New York. I'm not sure how many of you know anything about Rome, New York. I certainly didn't, but it's the home of the National Bellamy Organization. I could go on for hours talking about my conversations with Mr. Frank DiBernito, Director of the National Bellamy Organization's accolades and continued high regards for the Hibbing schools. Having said that, as we prepare to part ways as students, as alumni, as educators, I do believe it's important to share a letter that he sent to Hibbing just this week on behalf of the Bellamy organization. And I'll share with you that I have read it at least a dozen times, usually pinching myself, as yet today I am in absolute disbelief. I think this letter will make each of you equally as proud, so please bear with me. Dear friends, it was with great excitement that I recently learned of the celebration of Hibbing High School's 100th anniversary, an achievement for which students, alumni, and community residents alike can be justifiably proud. As the national director, or as the director of the National Bellamy Award Organization, I am very pleased to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the people of Hibbing, who over the past number of decades have continued to earn the respect and admiration of the educational community for prioritizing the needs and future well-being of its students. Named in honor of the Pledge of Allegiance author Francis Bellamy, the National Bellamy Award Organization is an educational program committed to promoting the ideals embodied in the historic oath. For many years, the organization honored outstanding high schools across America for their excellence in education, selecting one school in the country each year to carry the Bellamy Award banner. In 1968, Hibbing High School was selected as the standard bearer of the coveted Bellamy Flag Award for the state of Minnesota. Today, the organization encourages schools to teach young people about the significance of responsible citizenship, community service, and the impact the Pledge of Allegiance has had on the social and cultural fabric of the United States. Indeed, Hibbing High School has continued to maintain the highest academic standards and promote the ideals of community involvement and civic engagement that earned its designation as a National Bellamy Flag Award recipient in 1968. Without question, Hibbing High School is one of the most prestigious members of the National Bellamy Award family of schools. I was delighted and honored to participate in the activities during the Bellamy Award Week in October 1968, when Hibbing High School officially received the National Bellamy Flag Award. At that time, I was a college student serving as the National Student Chairman on the Board of Directors of the National Bellamy Award Organization, and was responsible for communicating and working with student representatives from other Bellamy Award recipient schools who attended the Hibbing presentation. The late Dr. Marguerite S. Miller, founder and executive director of the National Bellamy Award, who presented the Flag Award to Hibbing High School in 1968, was especially impressed by the school's accomplishments. Most notably, she praised Hibbing and its residents for preserving the foundation of the values of our great American heritage. In announcing Hibbing High School as the 1968 recipient of the National Bellamy Flag, Dr. Miller specifically cited the following factors as reasons why the school was selected. The comprehensive educational philosophy of Hibbing High School, a professional staff of teachers dedicated to providing students with the best possible educational experience, the impressive list of accomplishments of the student body as well as of school alumni, a strong program of teaching students responsible citizenship and the importance of community involvement, and positive and open lines of communication between school and students, parents, and the local news media and the community at large. It was a distinct privilege for me to visit the beautiful city of Hibbing in 1968, meeting and talking with school administrators, faculty, students, parents, civic leaders, and members of the public. I was deeply impressed by the warm welcome, gracious hospitality, and genuine friendliness afforded me by the Hibbing community during the Bellamy Award Week. A wonderful experience I will never forget. On this milestone occasion, I am happy to announce that in recognition of the 100th anniversary of Hibbing High School, the National Bellamy Award Organization would like to rededicate the flag award that Hibbing High School received in 1968. Therefore, this fall, our organization will send to Hibbing High School a new American flag, a rededication flag, that will have been flown over the gravesite of the Pledge of Allegiance author Francis Bellamy, who is buried in the historic Rome Cemetery in Rome, New York. The flag will fly over the gravesite on September 8th, the day in 1892 on which the pledge first appeared in print. Finally, on behalf of the National Bellamy Award Organization, I heartily congratulate the Hibbing community on the centennial anniversary of Hibbing High School and wish for Hibbing High School another 100 years of academic excellence and continued success in your educational mission. Mr. Bernardino, thank you. And thank you for watching tonight. Please know that Hibbing and the Hibbing school community continues to be so proud of being a leader in the Bellamy Award family. After this weekend's festivities, I know that so many will be going off in so many different directions. I encourage each to carry with you your Blue Jacket pride. Wherever you go, I encourage you, please remember Hibbing, the Hibbing schools, and the education that you received right here within these walls. I encourage you to please stay connected, watch our website, call when you return to Hibbing. Please keep visiting our schools. Remember, this will always be a place you can proudly call home. There is no doubt that together we will write an exceptional story of the next 100 years of Hibbing High School. Finally, importantly, whenever you have an opportunity, loudly and proudly hail the Hibbing School song. So, as we wrap up this very special week, I just have a few departing reminders. We have had many questions asking how folks can watch or rewatch this week's events. Please feel free to access hpat.org. Thank you, Ron, for making that possible. He is posting each night's events. And please be sure to join us downstairs in the athletic area for a brief reception. Please be sure to look over the table of trophies and hematites and take them with you. And remember, tonight at dusk, about 10 p.m., there'll be some fireworks over the racetracks. Tomorrow, The festivities will continue with the Jubilee events. The parade is at 3 p.m., and you will not only see the amazing Hibbing High School marching band, who I believe recently won first place in a parade earlier this week, and they will be in their new uniforms. Our Hibbing schools will also have a float, and you will see about 150 band members from over the years who are coming together to play in the 100th anniversary celebration alumni marching band. So again, happy Hibbing High School Day in Hibbing. Happy 100th Hibbing High School, and thank you everyone. And before we part ways, I ask that you please stand for one final farewell song.